We're joined this morning in studio by San Francisco Chronicle senior political writer Joe Garofoli. Joe, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Always fun to be here.
Roy Moore lost because of the allegations, would you say more so, or because of President Trump out there campaigning?
As the saying in politics goes, victory has 1,000 mothers. And so there's a lot of things to attribute this to. Number one, you can't divorce the moment we're in, the Me Too moment, and the stuff that Roy Moore was accused of. This is a comet of a candidacy. This is this is crazy stuff happening, and so that's obviously the first thing. The other thing we cannot overlook is that the turnout of African American voters, which Democrats had a hard time doing in 2016. Roughly 30% of the turnout was African American. Something like 95% of them voted for Doug Jones. We have that. We have the write-in votes. Richard Shelby, the Republican senator.
22,000.
22,000. About 2%, which in terms of write-in votes is like astronomical. Right. The margin of victory, about 2%, as the president tweeted there. And, there was a lot of out-of-state money coming in for Doug Jones. $10 million over a 6-week period, which is, again, off the charts, especially for Alabama. That allowed him to put up a lot of TV ads. 86% of the ads that Alabamans saw over the last several weeks were either pro-Jones or anti-Moore, many of them showing the senior senator saying, maybe write in, if you're not comfortable with Roy Moore, write in someone else.
We also heard that a lot of Republicans were not energized because of the candidate, and they stayed home. Do you think that had an effect?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they said, especially in some of the suburban areas, more the moderate white Republicans, Moore still got a lion's share of the white vote, but still some of these moderate Republicans are like, I just am uncomfortable with the allegations. I'm either not going to vote or I'm going to write somebody in.
Saying that is this just one state in the red southern states to come? Because it's
a big one, though, right?
It's a very, very unusual victory. It's hard to replicate all these factors. How many Roy Moores are there out there? Joneses took advantage of it. Very well organized campaign. They used a lot of good social media, and they had a lot of help and a lot of money.
But then that goes back to my first question about and you talked about the Me Too movement, that this may have been more of a reason for the victory for the Democratic candidate, because this movement is starting to reshape politics.
It is.
Not just people in Congress already,
right?
But maybe in the elections next year and then in the midterms.
You cannot.
And in 2020, maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. And it has to keep going. And I'm sure there's more allegations to come out. There seems to be one every day. It has potential to carry on. But you can have that's one thing. You still have to have the organization. You have to have the money. And you have to have a good candidate.
Right.
Doug Jones was a decent candidate. He was a fairly spotless record, and he's not like a crazy lefty in Alabama.
The president said that in a tweet. He says we need better Republican candidates, down the road.
The president, I got to say, is one of the big losers here, because he was 0 for 2. He endorsed Luther Strange in the primary, and he endorsed Roy Moore here. So he was 0 for 2 here, and he can retro spin it however the hell he wants in his tweets, but he backed the loser twice here.
Can we talk about the phrase values voters, typically associated with older, white, perhaps evangelical, perhaps not in this race, as far as African-American women's support specifically?
Right.
Talk to us about a little deeper into the dynamics of who voted for him.
Who voted for him were African-American voters, the most reliable Democratic Party voters, and they voted. When they do vote, they vote. They turned out as at exactly their population. 30% of Alabama is African-American, 30% of the vote there.
Too, right?
People in big cities voted.
Younger people voted.
Younger people voted, but the Democrats definitely need to up that game a little bit. And they can't lose this percentage of the white vote in the South. The white vote definitely went predominantly for the Republican here. Democrats have to make inroads there, too.
Before we have to go,
No, go ahead.
What do you think about this recount call by Roy Moore going nowhere?
Roy Moore will be writing that check out of his own checkbook, because Alabama's Secretary of State said we're not paying for it, because if it's 0.5% below, the state will pay for it. If it's above that, then it's on your dime.
It's on you. You were to say?
He went 0 for 2 because he's making his own decisions, or he's still listening to Steve Bannon?
Well, that's the question. Yeah, I mean, Steve Bannon is loser number 2 here. He portrayed this as a very apocalyptic terms, as like the choice between Trump and nullification. I don't know what nullification means. It's very very biblical almost. But Bannon's value is definitely on the wane.
Okay. senior political writer Joe Garofoli of the San Francisco Chronicle. Thank
Thanks.
you again for
Thanks,
being
Joe.
here.
Thanks, guys.